In a previous video, we talked about the theory how Far Cry 6 Diego Castillo is a young Vaas Montenegro from Far Cry 3, meaning that Far Cry 6 is actually a prequel to Far Cry 3, but we ended up completely debunking this. We looked at the whole of Far Cry 3 as well as all the information that has been provided to us for Far Cry 6 from Ubisoft, which includes different interviews, the trailers and different articles. We ended up completely proving this wrong. If you do want to see that, there is a link to that in the description down below. But today we're exploring a completely different theory, a theory that actually has a bit more evidence to stand on but was completely overlooked because fans were latching onto the previous theory thinking that Vaas Montenegro is coming back, which obviously took the spotlight. But I found this theory whilst I was researching the other theory and I thought that this could be pretty fun to talk about. But before I do get into the video, if you do want to see any more content from me, there's links to absolutely everything in the description down below. You have two other YouTube channels, one entirely dedicated to Red Dead Online being my main channel, and then the other is just dedicated to entertainment. We're playing a variety of different games over there. So if any of that does interest you, links to everything can be found in the description down below. Getting back into the video, the first thing that I want to say is that this is just a theory. It was fun talking about Vaas Montenegro, and whilst researching that video, I stumbled across this theory, which is more plausible and I thought it would be fun to talk about. So the theory is that the main character you play as, Danny Rojas within Far Cry 6, is actually an older version of Diego Castillo, who is Anton Castillo's son and second in command. So let's actually go through all of this. Everyone pointed out to the scar on Diego and how it's very similar to Vaas Montenegro from Far Cry 3. And what is crazy is just because of this one similarity, it was enough for the whole Far Cry community to spin out of control with excitement. Fans freaked out about this little bit of information, and the theory just got passed around and spread like wildfire. But the thing is, Vaas Montenegro isn't the only person that has a similar scar to Diego. The male version of Danny Rojas has the exact same scar. It's just this little bit of information fell through the cracks because Ubisoft have not revealed too much information about Danny Rojas, as well as we haven't got too many pictures and he wasn't included within the main trailer. Before we carry on with this theory, we should talk about the characters within Far Cry 6 and how they work. So when you start Far Cry 6, you'll be playing as Danny Rojas. You can't change the name, you can't change the appearance, but you can choose whether or not you play as a male or female character. And you can also customize the clothing options. And we know this because there are options for you to pre-order bonuses, which will give you some extra items of clothing. Now this theory just fell through the cracks. No one seemed to talk about it. And this is because the announcement trailer was released, which gave us our first look at the Castillo family, but Danny Rojas was not part of it. We only got information about Danny Rojas when Ubisoft released more information as part of interviews. Well, they also revealed these pictures of both male and female versions of Danny. So whereas the majority of Far Cry fans watched the trailer, not all of them went across to go and read the interviews, because that's just not as exciting. But when you do zoom into the male version of Danny Rojas, you can quite clearly see there is a little mark above his right eye, which is very similar to Diego's. And we can't see this on the female version of Danny because A, she's wearing a lot of armor, including a helmet to cover the top part of her head, and B, she's also looking away. So even if the armor wasn't there, you still wouldn't be able to get a view of that side. So fans are expecting something similar to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. You see Eivor as a child, but then later on you can then decide whether or not that is a male or female character. When we get some more trailers and gameplay, if female Danny Rojas has the exact same scar, then there would be even more backing this theory that Danny is actually an older version of Diego. But for now, we can't talk about that because there isn't any extra gameplay videos or trailers. But there is some other stuff that we can talk about. This moves us on to the next point back in this theory, and this is that Anton Castillo has a birth year and age, but Diego and Danny doesn't. As already mentioned, when the announcement trailer was released, Ubisoft also released interviews, new articles, which provided more information about the characters. We learned about Anton Castillo, his childhood, how his father was El Presidente and was later killed right in front of him. We also know where Anton Castillo was born, his age, his birth year. Lots of information to go off considering this game hasn't even been released yet. But with both Diego and Danny, the information was limited. We know that Diego is 13 years old, but we're not given a birth year. With Danny Rojas, we don't even know his birth year or his age. Players believe that this was done because they're the same person. Danny has the exact same birth year, so it wasn't shown. Players would have caught on that Diego was born in the exact same year as Danny, but somehow one is much older than the other. And if this was revealed, this would obviously show that the game is set during two different time periods. but it's been merged into one. The theory also points out a few similarities between the both being born and raised in Yara, which should also be highlighted that this is the first time ever we've had a Far Cry main character being born in a setting that the game is taking place. The information also talks about how Danny did not want to join the revolution but then gets swept up in the guerrilla movement, and when watching the trailer, Diego also doesn't want to be part of the situation. You can clearly see that he's in his own little world, building the car, listening to music, blocking out everything else around him until his father hands him a grenade. Players that believe this theory see that this is actually quite a few similarities compared to how much information has been released on both of these characters. But let's also go a bit further in depth with this, because if the game was set in two different time periods, surely you're going to be able to tell the difference. Surely there's been advancement in technology, weapons, vehicles, even just architecture and buildings being built around you. Well, that has already been taken care of, because Far Cry 6 is frozen in time. Although Far Cry 6 is set in present day, due to Castillo's oppressive regime, the island appears as though it's stuck in 1960s. That means you can expect vintage cars, gadgets, and weapons, this making it easier to blend time and space. Because of the economic decline in Yara, this has meant that the last 50 years, its aesthetics just hasn't changed. And then the last thing to talk about is the relationship between the three characters that Ubisoft keep on putting emphasis on. They say that the triangle of characters between Anton, Diego, and Danny is absolutely crucial. And then they also go on to say this. What I can say is that with Diego, what we found really interesting was the idea of this is a 13-year-old teenager. I think a lot of folks can remember what it was like being 13, at least I do. It's hard enough to figure out who you are and what you're going to do in this world and what it does all mean, but try doing that while being a son of a dictator who is running a country. We really wanted to create a character in Diego that is riding a razor's edge. You don't know exactly where he's going to land. Is he going to follow in his father's footsteps? Is he going to be a brutal dictator himself? Or is he going to forge his own journey, his own path? So I'm excited to see what players think of that. This quote right here really gives the idea that Diego is going to be going back and forth. One minute he's making the decision to follow in his father's footsteps, and the other minute he's going against his father. And it would be interesting to see how this ends. But this can also be merged into the theory. This is Diego taking his own path, making his own journey. It is to join the guerrilla movement, change his name, and revolt against his father. So just as a quick overview of this theory, there are some players that believe Diego and Danny are the exact same person, that Far Cry 6 is being played or shown at two separate times, but because the setting is frozen in time, players won't be able to tell the difference. For whatever reason, despite Anton teaching Diego how to be El Presidente as he is the next in line, Diego doesn't want to, so he leaves later in life. Diego being second in command, he can't keep his name of Diego Castillo. The Castillo name is both disgusted and loved at the exact same time by two separate groups within Yara. There is a split right down the middle. So Diego has to change his name and picks Danny Rojas, and keeps a low profile as he grows older. Later in life, for whatever reason, Diego, now Danny Rojas, hates his father and joins the revolution. He joins the guerrilla movement and fights back. And the whole premise of this game revolves around the players not knowing until the end of the game, as one big twist. What players believe is one linear story is actually a non-linear story set in two different times. You have one time which is Diego being young, and Anton teaching him the ropes, showing him how to be El Presidente when he's older. But this is also being merged with gameplay from 10 years from that point, where Danny Rojas, also Diego, is actually fighting back against Anton Castillo. And you're not going to be able to tell the difference because Yara is frozen in time. So this is the theory that I've seen a few people talk about. It was really overshadowed by the Diego is Vaas theory, but I do believe that this theory has so much more pointing to it being real. Danny and Diego both don't have birth years. They also haven't got revealed age apart from Diego, which is 13, but that doesn't matter too much because we don't know the birth year. Yara is frozen in time, which means it is plausible to have two different time periods merged into one. Male version of Danny Rojas does have the exact same scar as Diego, and Ubisoft are putting a lot of emphasis on all three of these characters being very closely connected. So just out of these points, it already has so much more back in it compared to the Diego Diego is Vaas, because the Diego and Vaas theory was just the fact that they had the exact same scar. Everything else we were able to prove wrong, as years and lore just did not back it. Well, at least with this theory there is some logic there. But now it is time just to throw my opinion into the mix. We do only have one proper trailer that reveals any true information about the game, and because this is a game that hasn't been released yet, it hasn't even got a release date yet. Obviously there will be gaps in information provided because Ubisoft aren't done releasing trailers or information to hype up the game. The reason we haven't got any of the background info on Diego and Danny is because Ubisoft can later do trailers and interviews to reveal this information. Very similar to the Vaas theory, one part that I find very interesting is the scar. If female Danny Rojas has the exact same scar, then there's definitely something connecting these two characters for them both to have that exact scar. Maybe they were part of a similar event, maybe they are the exact same person, and if it's not any of those, it would have to be a very crazy coincidence. And I'm just not going to believe that it's a coincidence when we're talking about a game that has many designers backing it. But anyway, now it's time for me to throw it over to you guys. Let me know what you think. I've laid out the theory, shared what I've seen on social media, given my opinion on the matter. Now it's your time to let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you think that this theory has legs? Do you think that this is actually going to be the story for Far Cry 6? Or do you think that this is just a load of nothing? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you do want to see any more content from me, there's links to absolutely everything in the description, being other YouTube channels where I upload very regularly, multiple times every single week, and you also have the Twitch channel where I stream every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Links to that can be found in the description. But anyway guys, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did enjoy, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, but for now, I'm going, so see ya.